Hello there, my name is Dawn, and welcome to another episode of The Chamber Within. Today, I want to share a lived experience, which is regarding having gone through a spiritual psychosis. This episode was a bit tough for me to plan out and write out as I was feeling a bit shamed by having gone through it, but I want to share it because I think it would be helpful to others out there who may be experiencing the same. Every so often, I come across a post of someone accusing another of a spiritual psychosis, as if they are doing spirituality wrong. But it really is just a learning curve, and I understand that there are some who do not make it back from their psychosis. So this episode is for them. I have even read about it in my spiritual books, and the guides that Paul Selig channeled say that the confusion or distortion that happens is that they may think they are God instead of an aspect of God. When a person experiences um, paranormal activity or heightened gifts, um, anything of the like. Now, from my personal experience, you are watching someone in class, right? You're going through expansion and hopefully are going to figure it out. So when I hear someone say, oh, they are going through a spiritual psychosis, kind of like a judgmental tone, that person was once me, and I no longer want to be silent about it. There's no wrong way because we will all get to where we need to go eventually in our own time for our own particular journey. Now, here's the Webster's dictionary definition of a spiritual psychosis. Spiritual psychosis is not a formal diagnostic term, but refers to a psychotic episode, a serious mental illness involving lost contact with reality, characterized by delusions, hallucinations, and thought patterns heavily focused on spiritual or religious themes. It can involve grandiosity, paranoia, or confusion. That's the definition. In my case, it was definitely confusion because I had lived 39 years of my life being a grounded, practical, and dare I say, typical human being. Besides having a couple memories of me floating back into my body before waking up, and the exact position I was in that I saw from a third person perspective, and also being comforted by spirit in middle school that one night I was shivering, I did not have any extrasensory experiences besides that. Now, when I say this out loud, it seems like, well, man, they were always there. And during my psychosis, it seems as though they may have become heightened and heightened awareness due to daily meditation and solitude. Um, I began to embrace the things that I didn't want to speak about because I was afraid of being ostracized and afraid to speak of the things I didn't understand. So, anyway, here's what I went through. Before I moved out of my marital home, I had an experience in my car that I talked about in episode 2 called This is a Blessing. Now, I was crying and completely distraught about what was happening in my life at that time, wondering where I should go. It was in the middle of the night. It was around 3:30, between 3:30 and 4 a.m., and I could feel other beings in the vehicle with me. And the thought mantra that I talk about in that episode, this is a blessing, ran through my mind again and again, like on repeat. This is a blessing. This is a blessing. This is a blessing. So much so that I began to say it aloud. Now, let me back up. I was alone in my Jeep Patriot, so I was not riding with anyone. I kept my car relatively clean, and the only other item in my car that day was my suitcase. At the time, I had planned to take a short trip out of town. So I was by myself, but my car felt full. Have you ever, do you know what it feels like to be in a room full of people? Well, that's what it felt like in my car. I knew I was not alone, but I was not fearful. I felt loved and watched over. But the thought that persisted, I knew was not my own because of how dire my situation felt to me, felt dismal, felt terrible. It was so sad. These were not my thoughts, but my guides were with me, guiding me, redirecting me. That's how I know it wasn't me, because I was thinking, I hate this moment right now. I can't stand this. I'm so sad. I'm so upset. What? Here comes the thought train of this is a blessing. This is a blessing. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what's happening, but I just started saying it. It's kind of like having a song in my mind. Anyway, a week later, my entire life was changed for the better. This was the beginning of March of 2020. And as you know, this was about to be a time of lockdown for everyone, everywhere. And apparently, the start of my spiritual journey, or at least when I fully embraced it. Then the next paranormal experience I had was later that year. Again, I was up in the middle of the night, crying in my bed, and I closed my eyes, and from up above, because I can tell it was coming from, it was a very warm presence that wrapped around me, and love ran through me. It felt warm and it felt like home. It felt like a long lost memory. Like, I know this feeling. This feeling isn't foreign to me, but I haven't experienced it here. Like, I can't say, oh, I haven't felt this since I was 5, or I haven't done this since I was in high school. It does not at all compare to anything I have felt while in this body. The closest thing I can think of is hugging my mother, who has passed long ago. But that feeling of being loved and embraced, multiplied a million times over. I want to say infinity. I'm trying to impress upon you how great this love felt, and pure. Well, anyway, I don't need to run down a list of every single thing that happened, but what I'm trying to convey is that nothing compares to not having to worry, not having to doubt, fear, or the like. Like, it's like crossing a threshold of a new reality, right? And I've got this feeling many times over during my awakening experience. And I've had many experiences enough to know that there is just life. There is no death. I at one time was consumed with this meditating. I'd wake up in the morning and eat breakfast, read while eating, and immediately meditate afterwards. I get why people who have near-death experiences say they don't want to come back. The contrast is so great between here and there, right? The non-physical realm, heaven bound, wherever that is, that space where you just feel completely welcome, loved, and at home. The high realm. It's actually so high, it feels like a high if you're not grounded. You can lose touch. And this is what happened to me. In hindsight, I know that for a moment, I certainly did. Now, it was fun getting to know the part of me which had been ignored for so long. I got in touch with my intuition. I learned how to release fear, to know when it was rearing its ugly head and trying to distract me. And I learned how to move around it instead of running from it and letting it control me. All I wanted to do was meditate, right? This is what I was doing every day, and to be with my plants and to read and connect with others, but I couldn't connect because we were in lockdown. So that made the latter hard because my human experience had shifted so many degrees. It felt like that the learning curve was being able to integrate this knowledge into this life, not to escape it. I learned so much so fast about the law of attraction and manifestation. I had so many synchronicities happen to me in a short amount of time. The most trippy one, there's two that I can point out immediately, was where I would be up late at night and write my thoughts down, which is a common occurrence. But one night, I just had these thoughts running through my head. I'm like, I got to get it out. I wrote on my phone, in my notes app on my phone, because I was like, I got to get this out. And it seems like a really good idea. Or, you know, this thought, I just have to capture it. And the next day, I'm in the middle of a spiritual series. And the next day, that line, and the same sentiment came up in my book as if I was reading ahead. It was so strange. I went back to my notes and the phrase glass of separation was written down. I looked at the time. I'm like, this is insane. This is right before I went to sleep. I couldn't sleep and I had to get this out. But I saw the image of how we think we are separate as a people, but we really aren't. That is an illusion. That's the glass of separation, because there is no separation. That's why it's a glass. it's, it's it's completely made up. It happened again, but this time I hadn't bought the book. I wrote down about how chosen people are the ones who choose, and that's the line. And I was just like, that makes total sense. You're not chosen because you're special, or chosen because you're chosen because you had made the choice. Right? It's reciprocal. The universe responds to you. Then I saw it in a book I purchased on a page number that resonates with me because it's my birth month and day, which are repeating numbers. And gosh, it stuck out like ta-da. And I really felt like the universe was communicating with me. It was, but that's a lot to take in. Going from someone that is the human that was practical and safe and did all the right things, started to take in another aspect of the parts of me that aren't seen. Uh, everything works together and can create a reality for you based off your own thoughts and feelings. And it was just happening again and again, time after time. Now, the psychosis was me thinking I could manifest money and continue to read and meditate and study. That's all I wanted. And this wasn't the case, obviously, right? The old me worried constantly about bills. And this new me said, don't worry, be happy. The new me got me evicted and crashed back down into reality. It felt unfair at the time, but now it's funny. Like, I get it. I get the lesson. I wanted to be this spiritual being, not that 3D physical person. But I came here to be both. I came here to recognize the non-physical part of me while still being accountable to my agreements like rent and electricity. Isn't that funny? Anyways, this is a lot to unpack for me to really look at my situation, what I've been through, and to share it. But it's helpful to share my story because for people like me who accepted and gained access to more of themselves, may have a difficult time stitching together the old parts of themselves with the new. Now, grounding is important. And here's how I got back to normal, my normal, quotation marks, right? As best as I could get. Since I can remember, I have always loved reading and writing. I started to do just that. Just writing for myself to get out what I had inside. Additionally, for me, grounding isn't perhaps standing directly on soil with bare feet, although I am aware of its benefits. To me, it meant being around and talking to other people, having my attention on them in conversation really helped. Being present in this body that I am responsible for, being present in this life that I've chosen, that reeled me in and brought me back. Just being around other people and being me, physically me. It's my vehicle, so I try to appreciate it as best as I can, right? Like a car, try to give it the oil changes and keep gas in it. I know I won't have it forever. And that home that I had a taste of here and there throughout my lifetime will be there for me waiting. Giving and sharing of myself helps me to feel useful, purposeful, helpful. I hope. I share and share because no one is an island unto themselves. We have many shared experiences we may not feel comfortable exchanging, but the ones we wish not to talk about aren't uncommon, not as much as we think they are, which is an incredible idea. The notion that, well, I've been through that too, or I've felt this way as well. To those who may be lost or feel lost or isolated, I totally see you and I stretch out my hand to you. I walk with you energetically because I too have felt alone and weird. Being authentic is how we find one another. So I keep on speaking in hopes of reaching you one day. And I do thank you all for listening. I truly, truly do. If you have any questions for me about your journey or would like to ask me about mine, you can always email me at thechamberwithin@yahoo.com. You all have a wonderful week. Stay warm, and I will talk to you later. Bye bye.